Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming back after yesterday. The universities of Wisconsin are committed to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It is our expectation that this audience will allow our proceedings to occur without disruption. Any disruptions in the event will be handled swiftly with responsible individuals subject to disciplinary actions for the disruption. With that, Megan, please call the roll.
Regent Bogost.
Here.
Regent Weatherly. Here. Regent Adams.
Present.
Regent Adongo.
Here.
Regent Fritz. Regent Goydom. Here. Regent Cruiser. Regent Menedietz.
Here.
Regent Nixon.
Here.
Regent Pelzowitz.
Here.
Regent Prince.
Present.
Regent Rye.
Here.
Regent Rogers. Here. Regent Salzman.
Yes.
Regent Terwilliger. Regent Trainer. Regent Underley. Regent Walsh.
Here.
And Regent Fritz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Megan. As we consider items on today's agenda, are there board members who wish to declare any conflicts of interest regarding today's open session agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed. We'll start our meeting today by hearing directly from a UW-Madison student. I would like to invite Lori Reeser, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at UW-Madison, to introduce our next speaker.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Welcome, and good morning, System President Rothman, Regent President Bogos, our regents, chancellors, and colleagues. As Amy said, I'm Lori Reeser, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. Our students are at the heart of everything we do. Working with them is our purpose, our joy, and our greatest reward. And I'm pleased to introduce yet another impressive student leader to you this morning. Adeline Wood is a senior here at UW-Madison, majoring in Human Development and Family Studies. As president of the Wisconsin Union, she leads the Wisconsin Union Directorate and chairs the Union Council. She also serves on my Cabinet of Student Leaders, which is a group of student leaders representing the diversity and influence of our student organizations on campus. Adeline discovered her community and her voice through Wood, working her way to a leadership position, which you will soon hear. She was instrumental in planning the Memorial Union's 100th anniversary groundbreaking celebration. Mark your calendars for a couple years when we truly celebrate. Even wearing a borrowed fur coat to recreate the historic moment of the woman captured in photographs from the original ceremony a century ago. That's dedication. Beyond her leadership opportunities, she finds joy in knitting, baking, spending time with friends, and exploring the outdoors. Here to share her Madison story with you, her journey to find connection, broaden her perspectives, and push beyond her limits to truly thrive, I'm proud to welcome Adeline Wood.
Hello and good morning to Chancellor Mnookin, Vice Chancellor Reeser, Board of Regents, and other distinguished guests. My name is Adeline Wood. I'm a senior studying Human Development and Family Studies and this year's Wisconsin Union President. Part of my role as President is to lead the Wisconsin Union Directorate, otherwise known as Wood. Wood is the union's programming board, which brings thousands of events to campus every year. My story is very similar to many students on campus. I grew up in Hillsborough, Wisconsin, a rural farming community with a population of 1,300, and I come from a long lineage of farmers and teachers. My parents have joked that I'm the poster child for small-town Wisconsin. I worked at Culver's for 4 years, I was on my high school's trap team, and I was part of one of the largest graduating classes my high school had seen in 20 years, a whopping 49 members. You know, typical small-town things. Only 7 of us from the Hillsborough class of 2022 pursued 4-year degrees, and I'm proud to say that 5 of us will be graduating this spring from Wisconsin universities, including UW-Platteville, UW-Eau Claire, and of course, UW-Madison. My high school did the best it could to prepare me for college, but because most of my classmates were taking classes to prepare them for the workforce, it left my AP classes a bit barren. My dual enrollment English class contained only 2 members, myself included. As much as I valued the individualized attention from my teachers, I was only conversing with people who had similar ideologies and shared upbringings. So when I got my acceptance letter from UW-Madison, I was thrilled to be able to share a classroom with students who had different lived experiences and would challenge my ideas. When I showed up to campus as a bright-eyed freshman, I was equally exhilarated as I was terrified. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who didn't know me. And for the first time in my life, I had to build my own community, and I realized that I had absolutely no idea how to do that. So I did what every freshman trying to find a place on campus does, and I went to the student organization fair. It was there that I found the Wisconsin Union Directorate. I was drawn to the cuisine committee, honestly just thinking I would get free food at the first meeting. Now, spoiler alert, there was no free food, but there was a team of welcoming and kind students who seemed genuinely interested in who I was as a person. And when I decided to come back for their second meeting, despite there not being free food at the first, the other committee members remembered my name. At this point in time, there were only one person on campus who knew my name, my freshman year roommate, and it meant the absolute world to me, a student who had only ever known the small town, tight-knit, everybody knows everybody community that I'd left for Madison. I was no longer unknown. It was then and there that I decided that this was my place on campus, that I would show up every week and I would try my best to contribute to and get to know the people who were willing to get to know me. I didn't realize it then, but the opportunities and experiences that have come out of being involved with an organization like Wood has completely changed my life. For the rest of my freshman year, I participated in as many events as I could and took every opportunity the committee leaders would give me. I shared meals with students that I would have never otherwise encountered, engaged in conversations surrounding difficult topics, and educated myself on social and systematic issues. Even though I was part of the cuisine committee, I learned about a lot more than just food. It allowed me the space to share my own experiences, educating my peers about what it was like to grow up in a community heavily rooted in agriculture. Sophomore year, I took on more responsibility within the committee as an associate director. I was tasked with creating cooking experiences that ranged from exploring social justice issues through pie baking to recreating food from video games. I became passionate about building connections, community, and civil discourse through cooking and eating together. I continued this work into my junior year when I became the director of Wood Cuisine. Now, as a senior and the president of the Wisconsin Union, I may be more removed from the amazing programming work that the directorate does every day, but instead, I take my philosophy about connections, community, and apply it in a more administrative way, guiding our organization and encouraging my peers. As an entry-level committee member, associate director, director, and now president, there has been one constant: the education, conversations, and relationships I have fostered outside the classroom setting have been instrumental to why I am the person I am today. I've become more confident in myself and my abilities and have grown as a leader because of the support and encouragement that I've received from both my fellow students as well as our amazing professional staff. Outside of my work within the Wisconsin Union Directorate, I found my place within the School of Human Ecology. I initially entered college as a biochemistry major with the goal of applying to a physician assistant program after completing my undergraduate degree. It was because of the PA school requirements that I took my first HDFS class and was introduced to the major. There, we learned about all of the career paths that the HDFS major could be applicable to. I got to hear from professionals from fields that I have never heard of before, and I realized that I had so many more opportunities than I ever imagined, opportunities I got to explore further through the school's internship requirement. My major may have changed, but my career plans have not. I'm currently in the process of applying to various physician assistant programs for the 27-28 academic year. Now, before I wrap this up, on behalf of my fellow students, I would want to extend a huge thank you to Chancellor Mnuchin for leading this campus for the last 4 years. I still remember when you and Dr. Reeser came to one of our directorate meetings, and I'm so sorry if we berated you with endless questions, but your time with us was more meaningful than I think you know. So again, thank you. Now, I came to UW-Madison in search of new perspectives, and to say that's what I received is an understatement. I found opportunities to thrive, to succeed, to push my limits, and most importantly, to learn from my professors, my advisors, my fellow students, my coworkers in the Madison community. These are lessons that will influence the way that I move throughout the world for the rest of my life, and for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you.
love that our Chancellor is so great at taking selfies. Thank you, Chancellor. And Adeline, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your courage coming and telling your story, and your positivity and energy is just really, it's contagious. And I just want to know if any of the other regents have any comments or questions. Okay.
I do.
Oh, Jack, sorry. Regents Oswego.
Where are you hoping to end up?
Anywhere that will take me. Oh, trust me, I know.
What's your dream location? Where would you?
Ooh, it probably is Wisconsin. I mean, I hope to travel a little bit beforehand, but like, this was an amazing place to grow up, and I would love to come back here.
That's a great answer.
Jack, I'm trying to recruit you. Help me out. Right.
I was wondering, you said you found the Wisconsin Union. Was that at an event for student groups, or because I'm thinking I come from a small farming community too, and it's a big deal to walk onto this campus. So how did you find them, and more so, how did you get the courage to go out and know that you needed it?
Yeah, again, I grew up in a really small town where I had the same friends from age 4 to 18. And so when I got to campus, I was really lonely. And so I was craving that kind of peer-to-peer connection. So I went to the student org fair, which we're having in just a couple of days on Tuesday. And that is kind of a really low risk place because everyone is looking for a club. So it's really easy to just go up and talk to people. And it was there that I found the Wood Cuisine Committee. They were handing out flyers for their first cooking workshop, which was grilled cheese and chili making. And I was like, hey, I'm there. So yeah, that's how I found
That's good. Well, congratulations on your graduation, and the selfish part of me hopes you get accepted here. Tell me you're applying here, please.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Any other? Yes, Regent.
Any advice to us? You mentioned that only about 20% of your graduating class went on to pursue a four-year degree, and 5 of the 7 went to UWs. How could we be more welcoming, more inclusive, reach out better to those students that chose not to pursue a four-year degree?
Yeah, I think a lot of my classmates didn't even think college was an option for them. They immediately assumed because they were from lower income families that was just not something that they could pursue, or it was the expectation that they were going to go right into the workforce. I am proud to say that most of my graduating class, about maybe half, did go and complete like 2-year technical degrees. But again, yeah, only 5 of us went and are completing 4-year degrees. So I think just like knowing that there are resources out there, I think our guidance counselor in high school did a really good job trying to communicate that, but it's really hard to convince somebody once they're in the mindset that this is not something that's an option for me, that it is in fact an option. So I think maybe just more education about like what is possible for kids who may not either think that they have the income to pay for college, or maybe the grades to get into college either.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments for Adeline? Okay. Thanks again. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming forward.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Take care. Okay, we're going to do a little switching of the agenda. We're going to go to committee reports. So we will, give me 1 second. We are going to start with education. We're going to start with education, and I'll call upon Regent Prince.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Regent President Bogos. Good morning, colleagues. The Education Committee approved 1 new academic program and revisions to the university policies on campaigning in residence halls. We approved a request by UW-Madison to offer a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering, elevating the existing aerospace engineering subplan named Option within the BS in Engineering Mechanics, which has shown strong enrollment growth over the past 5 years. Graduates will be well prepared for employment in aerospace engineering, a field projected to have faster than the average national growth over the next decade. Existing faculty and resources will be redirected to support the new program. and admissions to the BS in Engineering Mechanics will be suspended upon implementation of the proposed program. We also approved revisions to university policies on campaigning in residence halls. We collectively approved revisions proposed by all UW universities. Quinn Williams, our general counsel, presented an overview of proposed revisions to university policies on campaigning in residence halls submitted by all UW universities for board review, as required under UWS 18.11, paren 9, close paren, C, all of that. These updates are part of a broader effort to review campus policies requiring board submission or approval under the Wisconsin Administrative Code. The revisions create more alignment across the universities of Wisconsin and balance equitable and safe access for campaigning activities with in-campus resource constraints and policy preference. Each proposed policy was approved by the appropriate student governance body and chancellor, and they were reviewed by the Universities of Wisconsin Office of General Counsel for Statutory and Administrative Code Compliance. Next, our host campus, UW-Madison, gave a presentation titled Exploring the Many Ways We Teach and Learn. It highlighted UW-Madison's commitment to engaging students as active partners in knowledge creation and dissemination, emphasizing that learning extends beyond the traditional classroom. It highlighted the impact that faculty and instructional staff have on guiding students' educational paths, and underscored the importance of flexible teaching and mentoring environments to meet the evolving needs of students, the state, and its citizens. It was really good. I wish you could have all been there. Next, Senior VP Britz provided an update on efforts related to teaching workload and core general education credit transfer policies, as well as proposed revisions to SIS 102. The update highlighted that interim SIS policies have been developed and launched for teaching workload and core general education requirements. Additionally, it was noted that all 13 of the UW universities have established their CGER, core general education requirements. He further noted that SIS 102 revisions, based upon the recommendations of the 3 Provost Council-led work groups, are currently under review. We next heard and discussed proposed revisions to Regent Policy 4-12, Academic Program Planning, Review, and Approval in the University of Wisconsin system. As outlined by Senior Vice President Britz, proposed revisions to RPD 4-12 incorporate commonly accepted minimum credit hour requirements for degree types, for example, associates, bachelors, and masters, that are conferred by UW universities and permit bachelor programs below 120 credits when appropriate justification is provided. The proposed revisions align with the Higher Learning Commission's revised assumed practices effective September 1st, 2025, and would allow UW institutions to develop reduced credit bachelor's degree programs. This item was presented, and this is important, this item was presented as a first read for information and discussion with a vote anticipated at a future board meeting. And finally, Senior Vice President Britz gave a provost-centered overview of artificial intelligence as a disruptive force in higher education, highlighting its implications for academic program planning, teaching and learning, and student success. The presentation emphasized ethical considerations, responsible leadership, and a reflective perspective on how provost approaches to AI have evolved since its emergence in 2022. And of course, our provost also participated in the discussion. So, Regent President Bogost, this concludes my report. Therefore, I move for adoption by the Board of Resolutions C1, C2, and Resolution D.
Thank you very much, Regent Prince. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Yes, Regent Nixon.
I would just like to point out on that reduced credit thing.
Yes.
I think that's dangerous because Regent Rye and his cohort, who now run hospitals and other places around the country, did not have 120 credits. And look what happened with him.
That is on the record, so thank you, Regent Nixon.
Thank you.
Regent Rye is trying to
Thank
crawl
Regent-
under the table, so someone help
Yes.
him.
Plenty of room under there.
Plenty of room there.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Regent President Bogost.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we will move on to Regent Salzwedel to present a report from the Audit, Risk, and Compliance Committee. Regent Salzwedel.
Okay, thank you. The Audit, Risk, and Compliance Committee met yesterday morning, and the committee approved the minutes of the December 4th, 2025 meeting and the Office of Internal Audit Fiscal Year 2026 Audit Plan Progress Report via consent agenda. Next, the committee heard from Lori Stortz, the Chief Audit Executive, who discussed the results of audit reports recently issued. She shared the results of the National Collegiate Athletic Association audit, which were clean, similar to prior years. She discussed the institutional relationships with foundations and affiliated organizations audit, and stated overall that they found that all UW universities have agreements in place with their foundations. The audit noted a few areas where a number of universities could enhance and strengthen oversight of external agencies, but in general, we're pleased with the results, and we will hear progress on those areas at our next meeting. Then Ms. Stortz presented the audit plan risk model. She described the process her team undertakes to develop the annual audit plan. The Regents have asked in the past that they bring to our attention risks which are rated high and could benefit from an audit or analysis or additional analysis, regardless of internal audit's ability to perform the work, and there'll be more to hear on that in our future meetings. We decided to engage alternative resources to assess our risk posture. The Regents thanked Ms. Stortz for her team and her team for their work, and then we went into closed session, and you'll hear some of that when we go into closed session. So, Regent President Bogost, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Salzwedel. I'll next call on Regent Rye to present a report from the Business and Finance Committee. You okay?
What can I say? Regent Nixon, what can I say? Thank you, Regent President Bogost. The Business and Finance Committee acted on yesterday's agenda as follows. First, the committee heard a presentation from our host campus in which Vice Chancellor Rob Kramer and Associate Vice Chancellor David Murphy provided an overview of the university's financial position and introduced several initiatives under the theme of operational excellence that promote efficient and effective delivery of administrative services. Next, the committee reviewed the UW Annual Financial Report for fiscal year 2025, prepared by the Office of Finance. The report notes that UW's total net position as of June 30th stood at $6.9 billion, an increase of 3.7% from the prior year. The main contributors to this change included an increase in the total value of capital assets, an increase in net pension liability, and an increase in cash equivalents as uncertainty in federal and state funding, as well as the transition to Workday, led to reduced or delayed expenditures near the end of the fiscal year. Revenues increased by 2.3%, while expenses increased by 6.2%, driven largely by non-cash accrual entries for pension and other post-employment benefits. The committee then received the mid-year budget to actuals report, which reflects the status of each university's budget by major areas of activity in comparison to actual financial experience for the first half of fiscal year 26. While there's variation among the UWs, the report indicates that in aggregate revenues represent 71% of the budget, as many universities assess spring tuition prior to the calendar year end, while expenses represented 55.2% of the current budget. I just want to point out that I would ask all of my fellow regents to look at that business and finance packet That is the first new reporting we received from Workday when it comes to our financials. Obviously, it's also our new reporting and our new accounting philosophies as well. Regent Atwell would have been proud. So it is nice to see that, and I want to thank everybody that was involved in creating the reports. The committee then approved the UW status report on large or high-risk information technology projects. The report provides the status and noteworthy updates for 6 major IT projects across universities, including, happy to say, completion of the administrative transformation program at an estimated $4.8 million under budget. The total project portfolio is $238.4 million, a 3% decrease compared to the July 2025 report. Now that the ATP plane has landed, and I think we've thanked Stephen Hopper, I'd also like to thank everyone at our 13 campuses for the ATP project. Change is never easy. Change is messy. We mess with how you do business. We mess with how you buy things. We mess with how we pay you. And all of you have landed this plane so successfully. Yes, there's some bumps and some things to clean up, but you should all be proud across the entire system that tens of thousands of people involved in the ATP project, you have our gratitude. So thank you to all of our campuses. Next, the committee approved the annual report on the strategic plans for major IT projects. This report offers an inventory of all ongoing and new projects, both enterprise-wide and university-specific, and includes information on each project's business need, impact, staffing requirements, and budget. Both reports will be submitted to the legislature's Joint Committee on Information Policy and Technology pursuant to state statute. Lastly, the committee heard a presentation on the adoption of artificial intelligence in administrative operations at the UW. Vice President Julie Gordon and CIO Stephen Hopper discussed the use of AI in automating workflows and administrative tasks, building integrated data ecosystems, and optimizing financial management and performance. That concludes my report, and on behalf of the Business and Finance Committee, I now move for approval of resolutions G and H.
Thank you, Regent Rye. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Walsh. Any discussion, questions? No. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you, Regent Rye. Now I'll call upon Regent Walsh to present a report from the Capital Planning and Budget Committee. Regent Walsh.
Thank you, Regent President. The Capital Planning and Budget Committee met yesterday to consider 5 items. The committee approved the demolition of White Hall on the UW-Whitewater campus, a vacant residence hall built in the 1960s that has exceeded its useful life and lacks mechanical ventilation. The $1.8 million project, funded with state segregated revenue as part of the 2023 system-wide demolition package, includes removing the building, foundations, and utilities, and restoring the site to green space. Work is expected to begin after bids are opened in August 26, with substantial completion by May of 27. Removing this unused facility supports responsible stewardship, reduces minor utility costs, and aligns with long-term campus planning. The committee also approved a $4.7 million increase to the Fauci Center project at UW-Madison, bringing the total cost to $21.5 million, funded entirely by gifts and grants. The center will support teaching and research in the 300-acre Lakeshore Nature Preserve and will be the first net positive energy building on campus, using geothermal systems, solar panels, and other sustainable features. The budget increase reflects inflation, tariffs, and limited availability of specialized labor, and has been largely offset by donor support. UW-Madison has established and continues to fundraise for an endowment to fund future operations and maintenance. Next, the committee approved proceeding with Phase 1 of the Music Hall renovation and addition project at UW-Madison with a total project cost of $57 million. Music Hall, an historic and culturally significant building on Bascom Hill, is facing severe deterioration, outdated mechanical systems, and lacks ADA accessibility and modern fire safety. Phase 1 will address these urgent needs through exterior repairs, roof replacement, major building systems upgrades, and interior reconfiguration. The committee also heard from our host, UW-Madison. Our flagship is making major progress modernizing its facilities to support teaching, research, and student success. We've delivered Mortgage Hall on time and under budget and have nearly $2 billion in new projects underway. They've achieved STARS Gold Sustainability status, as we heard yesterday, and reached number 5 nationally in research spending, supported by new and upgraded labs across the campus. We also heard that aging facilities and $2.5 billion in deferred maintenance create urgent challenges. To stay competitive, they need continued partnership, more flexible project delivery, increased maintenance funding, and bonding authority. We are the only Big Ten campus and the only flagship in this country that does not have bonding authority. So that we can continue building a modern, sustainable, and world-class campus for Wisconsin. Finally, the committee received a report from the Associate Vice President for Capital Planning and Budget outlining the significant work underway to prepare the 2027 to 33 capital budget. Campus visits are complete, submissions are in, and the full capital budget will come to the board this August. We also heard that the State Building Commission met yesterday and approved several projects for the universities of Wisconsin, including the Polk Learning Commons addition and renovation. Lastly, the committee received an update on demolition projects across the state, where nearly $32 million of the authorized funding is now approved and moving forward. Madam President, this concludes my report. I move resolutions D, E, and F.
Thank you very much, Regent Walsh. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you. Thank you for the committee reports. To my fellow regents, I appreciate it. Now, I think I will invite Chancellor Mnuchin up to the table, and we'll get ready for our next group of panelists.
Thanks so much, Regent President Bogost. I'm just going to do a very brief introduction to what I know is going to be an interesting and I hope enlightening panel. I think it's going to be a terrific discussion about some of the ways that we're working to put pluralism into practice here at UW-Madison, including through the Wisconsin Exchange, which we launched this past fall. This work grows out of a couple of different convictions, which many of you have talked about, and you've also heard me talk about. I know it's also an area that's been of real importance to President Rothman and to the Regents, which is how do we work to create environments in which people can talk to each other constructively across their differences. We are in a polarized moment. That does not come easy. Necessarily, it doesn't come easy here within our spaces, but also in the broader world. And yet, it's incredibly important that part of what we do at universities is encourage people to explore a broad range of ideas, to encourage them to test their convictions, to be open to differences, and to understand that they have something to learn from people who see the world differently from themselves, and also that they can work with people on something, even when they don't agree on everything. And I think all of those ways of engaging in the world are facing some challenge and have been in recent years. One of the premises of the Wisconsin Exchange is that part of the way that these are ways of engaging that can be taught. It's not just something that you either have or don't have, that these are muscles that can be developed, and that we have to name this challenge attentively in order to try to do something about it. I think here in Wisconsin, we're a politically divided state. We have a long tradition of civic engagement, and we have a campus community that does have considerable diversity in all dimensions, including viewpoint diversity. And so how do we harness that to try to create more experiences for our students, faculty, and staff to engage with each other and to approach each other with curiosity before judgment. I think we're doing good work in this space, but frankly, I think there's more work to do. I don't think we have all the answers, and I think some of this is fragile and still fledgling. But I'm very excited about some of the programs that we're developing, some of the voices that are not just at this table, but in our broader community, and that what might be possible if we focus on this together with engagement, respect, and hope for what it might mean to be even stronger in this important space. But I don't want you to hear from me any longer. I want you to hear from this panel about their experiences, about what they think is going well in this space and some of the opportunities that they've had, and some of the times and moments where this work faces challenge. So thank you to our panelists for being here. They're going to be introduced by Interim Provost John Zembrunnen, who is also going to be moderating this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good morning, Regents. Thanks for the opportunity to share a bit about the exciting work that we have going on in the Wisconsin Exchange. I'm going to take a moment for just a couple thank yous here. First, I want to thank my boss. Among the many reasons that I'll be sad when Jennifer heads east in a few months is the work she has done in the space of building a commitment to pluralism and dialogue across difference on our campus. She is deeply committed to this work, is a tireless champion for it, and amidst everything else that is going on, has led the way for us and got us off to a great start, as you'll hear about in a few minutes. I will say I think this work is particularly challenging now in our current political and cultural moment, and particularly important in our current political and cultural moment. I also want to give a quick shout out to two folks who aren't here at the table, but they're in the room, Sarah Barber and Brianna Diamond, who work on mine and Jennifer's team, and who have, again, with very full plates at their day jobs, done amazing work to help us get to this point. I'm joined here at the table this morning by three amazing students who have been working on pluralism in practice back dating before the advent of the Wisconsin Exchange in the fall, and now are joining in the effort with us. You'll hear from them about some of the activities they've been leading on our campus. And then I'm joined as well by two of my faculty colleagues who are members of the Wisconsin Exchange Steering Committee, a wonderful group of folks on our campus who are coming together to think about what's possible in this space on our campus as we try to get better ourselves at engaging across difference and then try to make a difference out there in the world. So I'm going to start off by just starting with Allison and go down the row and just ask our panelists to introduce themselves briefly and tell us about the kind of work that they are engaged in that brought them into contact with the Wisconsin Exchange. So Allison.
Good morning, and thank you for having me today. My name is Allison Prash. I am the Nancy Oben Zukenik Professor of Letters and Science. I'm also an associate professor in the Department of Communication Arts, and as the interim provost said, I serve on the Wisconsin Exchange Steering Committee. And I also serve as special advisor to the Dean of the College of Letters and Science on how we might integrate discussions about civics and civil dialogue and democracy throughout the college in research and teaching. My interest in the Wisconsin Exchange really comes from my belief that there is no better place than our university classrooms to help our students and, frankly, ourselves engage in new ideas, try new concepts, and be willing to think across maybe what we consider to be our ideological positions. And part of this is based in my own academic journey. The faculty members that I had that encouraged me to embrace complexity and nuance and differences of opinion. And so I sit here today as a faculty member, but I'm also mindful of the experiences I had as a student. And so I view it as both my privilege and my responsibility to foster this environment in my own classes. And so what this looks like for me currently, being part of the Wisconsin Exchange, but also in my capacity as a faculty member, is thinking about how we might encourage students to think across difference and to dialogue with one another across issues that may be difficult or complex or even scary. Part of this looks to be in a new initiative in the College of Letters and Science, the Civics and Democracy Collective, that is part of the Wisconsin Exchange, and it is aimed at helping amplify and link courses that are focused on civics and civil dialogue and pluralism across the college. It also looks like, for me, developing a working relationship between the university and the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, thinking about how we might exchange ideas across difference and foster dialogue around civility and democracy on campus and in higher education more broadly. And then finally, it looks like developing courses that intentionally engage multiple viewpoints for our students to model the necessity of civic dialogue and pluralistic exchange. And I'm really proud to be part of this initiative.
Hello there, my name is Jackson Daniel. I am a junior at UW-Madison, but I'm graduating this May, a year early. I'm majoring in computer science with a certificate in mathematics. And the way I've been involved in the Wisconsin Exchange is through an initiative on campus called Deliberation Dinners. So that initiative was started up in the fall of 2023 when I was a freshman on campus, and so I was part of the first cohort of that program as a participant. So the initiative is focused around getting undergraduate students at a table of people of not like-minded views with a facilitator, kind of having a free dinner to kind of, open up people's barriers and inhibitions to speaking, and kind of laying a space for talking about these harder topics in our society and in our current political landscape. So I really enjoyed that program as a freshman and as a participant coming to this campus. And I've also been involved again this year. I've come back as an intern to help run the logistics of the program and kind of help with back-end management of things. And it's been really amazing to see kind of just that, the enjoyment that students on our campus get from participating in this program and kind of the excitement that students have to come back. It's a once-a-month commitment for the whole academic year. And just to see that rapport that students build, even if they are from very different backgrounds in their lives and their upbringings, it's just really amazing to see how students have been able to kind of bridge that difference and be able to talk about these really hard topics in a space that is welcoming these viewpoint differences and welcoming working through these challenges and seeing what we can learn from each other. And the idea is not to get to a consensus, although that does sometimes happen. The idea is to kind of understand each other better and be able to practice these skills that in my personal life, I have not really had a space to do. So it's just been really amazing work to see, and I'm really excited to continue doing it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Miranda Garcia Dove. I'm also a junior. I'm studying political science and information science with a certificate in public policy. And I'm the co-founder and co-president alongside Abby Grabowski, who's in Copenhagen, of a club called Bridge-Madison on campus. Bridge-Madison is a chapter of a national organization called Bridge USA that has maybe 800 chapters across the country focused on bridging divides and reducing polarization on college campuses. We started this club after being in a FIG called The Psychology of Political Polarization, taught by Professor Amy Gangle. This class focused on why we're polarized and what does that mean. And we both had the opportunity to attend a conference at the University of Chicago called Bridging the Urban and Rural Divide at the end of our freshman year, where we heard the CEO of Bridge USA, Manu Meal, speak. We were both really inspired by this experience. He talked about how students are kind of at the point where this is a really pivotal moment and they can really create these skills and foster them and then bring them with them into their workforce, into their lives. And so we started the second chapter of Bridge USA in the state after Bridge Eau Claire. And we started the fall before the 2024 election. We hosted 3 events, kind of focused on the election topics that felt the most pressing at the time. And since then, we've had in 2025, we had 15 discussions and events and 402 students engaged. We also held 3 panels with university and state representatives from across the aisle.
Hello, my name is Shane Funmaker. I come here today to represent the Pluralism and Unit Advisory Council. Right now I am studying social welfare with certificates in policy or political economy, policy, and then public affairs as well. And I represent also the Ho-Chunk Nation as a citizen enrolled member from here in Wisconsin from Wisconsin Dells, and as well as Oneida and First Nations, Oneida and Chippewa of the Thames First Nations from Canada. With that, I have a unique perspective and upbringing within this work, being able to understand a couple of different perspectives and bring that into the forefront, and that's why I got so involved with the Wisconsin idea, and being a transfer from Madison College, this year being my junior year, I also looked for different ways to become involved with all sorts of different initiatives, and also involved with the deliberation dinners, and the Pluralism Unit Advisory Council has been able to show, and what we do there, what we do there, the meeting structure is have about 10 students and 4 faculty members that are able to have these conversations around difficult topics, and then also be able to tackle case studies to understand different meaningful strategies to tackle different social problems throughout the campus in meaningful ways. And so this has been able to foster more meaningful skills in this aspect, and then also being able to work across different viewpoints within the council. And that has been also a struggle, but it has been meaningful as we've been able to work towards not a agreement, but understanding of each other's views. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Alex Tock. I'm an associate professor of political science at UW-Madison, and I'm also the director of the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership. I became interested in this issue for a number of reasons. One is, as somebody who studies American politics, I think it's hard not to do so and be without being concerned about effective polarization in America today. That is, not polarization ideologically alone, that we disagree strongly on many issues, but that we are increasingly seeing people with other views not as sort of a loyal opposition, but as evil or people who must be stopped. Secondly, I increasingly saw the campus environment becoming more hostile to conservative views. I think that is part of that effective polarization. These things led me to apply to be the director of the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership when that position became available. And part of my vision was to lead the Thompson Center in a direction of trying to foster viewpoint diversity and dialogue across differences. We have tried to do so at the Thompson Center. The Thompson Center acts not just at UW-Madison, but across all 13 campuses in the UW system. We bring a variety of speakers to campus with a range of viewpoints, with a goal of trying to foster viewpoint diversity, trying to bring views that might not otherwise be heard, as well as trying to foster dialogue across differences and across different ideas, finding both common ground and understanding our differences. And we launched the Bridging the Divide program, which also fosters small group political discussion among students. And that is not just here at UW-Madison, but at every campus in the system.
Great. Thanks to all of you for sharing a bit about what you're up to, and thank you for the work you're doing. I'm going to ask a quick follow-up question of each of our students. And Jackson, I'm going to start with you. How did you decide to participate in the deliberation dinners? Were you like a debate kid in high school and, oh, this is for me? Or how'd you make that decision?
Yeah, so the majority of my decision was by chance, but the way that deliberation dinners worked in the first year, the only advertisement was through our student email. So I was sitting at the bus stop one day, and I kind of got this email for this program, and I decided to give it like a chance. You know, as students, we get lots of emails, so it's hard to read every one of them fully. But the program interested me, so I read through the full description, and I was like, I should apply to this. This looks amazing. I never did debate in high school, but my mom did, and so I feel like I maybe got some of that. So I definitely got involved with deliberation dinners mostly because I thought it would be a good experience. I recognized as a freshman and as a person who has only lived like 18 years of life at that point, like I had never really been able to do this before. It's never an environment I've been in before, kind of, you know, talking through differences and stuff like that. And so I think it kind of just excited me to be able to do that. It was a unique experience that I hadn't had exposure to. And I'm really glad I took part of it because it was just so amazing to be paired with 11 other students and an amazing facilitator my freshman year. And I've been so happy to be able to come back and kind of like champion that work forward. But yeah, definitely it was kind of by chance I got involved, but I'm really happy that I did.
Well, glad you took the chance. Shane, you mentioned in talking about the Pluralism and Unity Council, you mentioned case studies. I wonder if you might share with us an example of the kinds of things that you all grapple with together.
Well, most recently, the case study that we are going over right now is the encampment from the Palestine in protest last year, and kind of understanding the different options that were presented to the different administrators, and having a unique perspective on that, as we also have faculty that that are also participating within the council.
So not shying away from tough issues and tough situations then?
Not at all.
Great, thank you. Miranda, Bridge Madison, I wonder if you might describe for the Regents one of the events that Bridge has sponsored.
Sure. So Bridge, most of our conversations are student-led discussions. We meet and it's all students. It's led by our executive board, and we have questions that are aimed to be worded neutrally and that invite all perspectives. We have a set of norms of discussion that also facilitate this. But then in the last semester, we held 2 events with state legislators and university representatives. And I'll share about our health policy panel. We had 2 members of the Republican caucus and 1 member of the Democratic caucus come and share their perspectives on health policy in the state and sort of what aspects are important to them depending on what parts of the state they're representing. And this was a panel style event moderated by Abby and I, and we had about 45 attendants, and we had people come from public health perspectives as well, which was really, really great, because I think, like Jackson was saying, it's sometimes easy for students that are interested in this to be all political science students, but we really have tried to get students from different backgrounds that might be interested in healthcare or medicine and policy as well through these events.
Thank you, Miranda, and I was lucky enough to be at that panel on health policy, and it really was pluralism in practice, listening to the Republicans and the Democrats find some common ground, some common sense of issues and problems despite they're coming from different places. I want to turn to Allison and Alex and zoom out a little bit, right? And wonder if you might talk a little bit about why you think this is the kind of work that a university like UW-Madison should do and should invest in. So, Alex, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is really essential to the mission of the university, both the University of Wisconsin-Madison in particular, and all universities. The fundamental mission of a university is the search for truth, and we can't effectively do that without considering all views, without being open to all views, without being engaging with views and capable of engaging with views that we disagree with having an effective process for considering them, understanding them, and not prematurely excluding any. So I think we can't operate as a university without this. I also think it goes to the core of the Wisconsin idea that we can't be effective, both in what we bring to the state, but also in how we interact with the state if we are not open to the views of the entire state.
Thanks, Alex. Allison.
Yeah, I would echo what Alex said in thinking about the Wisconsin idea, but I also would reflect on a statement that this very board made in 1894, that explicit commitment to sifting and winnowing, of following the truth wherever it may be found. And that is an ideal that I actually take quite seriously in my classes, and it is something that I see our students really hungry to do as well. I teach classes in US presidential rhetoric and political discourse, and so I have ample material to teach and discuss with my students. And what I see is students, as we've heard today from our remarkable students, who desperately want to know how to sift and winnow, and they want to do it together. And so I think, yes, it's at the very core of the Wisconsin idea. Yes, it's at the very core of who the university is, but we also have a remarkable pool of students here that bring diverse views and perspectives. They come from all 72 counties in Wisconsin, all 50 states, and 129 countries. And so those conversations are already happening on our campus. And so as a faculty member, I count it an extraordinary privilege and also a responsibility to make that space available to them. And as they learn from one another, we also see that they're learning about themselves and the places they call home. And the final thing that I would add is that I learn from them. And I learn from their perspectives and their ways of seeing the world. And that changes me and my perspective as I go back into the classroom.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna pose one final question for any of our panelists who want to weigh in, and then we'd love to have conversation as time allows. I wonder if any of you would like to share what is most inspiring or hopeful to you about the Wisconsin Exchange, but also if you have any thoughts on where you think the challenges in doing this kind of work are. So, and anyone who'd like to weigh in. Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
What I find inspiring with this idea is to bring together multiple perspectives, like I said earlier, to not only understand each other, but to be able to create community and foster meaningful solutions across different perspectives. And then what I'm excited, or what I see as a challenge for the Wisconsin idea within the UW campus, is the silo of division and within the different departments across campus. Understanding that a lot of the different majors in education departments don't interact, or they don't see each other. And so really creating the community to be able to have these conversations itself is tough in the first place. And then with the council, one of the goals that we have to do is bring events to really lower the stakes on those conversations and bring a little festival together to be able to have these conversations in a lower stakes environment as well.
Great. Alex.
Yeah, so I would say two things. First, that I'm just very pleased to see an institutional commitment to this idea. When I brought this as my vision for the Thompson Center, there wasn't a lot of talk about this, and indeed I've received a lot of pushback for that as a part of the vision. And so it is inspiring to see that from not just somewhere else on campus, but even from the chancellor, from the provost, and so on. And I hope the chancellor's successor will also share that understanding. Secondly, at the Thompson Center, we are focused a lot on leadership, and I think this is also essential for training a future generation of leaders. That we can't be effective leaders if we can't work with people we disagree with, find compromise with people we disagree with, find ways to move forward here, even while disagreeing over there, and consider all views and understand the views, represent people with very different views. And it has been very inspiring to see the future generation of leaders who I think are getting this and will give us an element of this when they are running things in another generation.
Great, thank you, Alex.
I would like to add that I think one of the most inspiring parts of the Wisconsin Exchange is sort of the all hands on deck approach, kind of thinking about all the different ways that we could implement this somewhere. We talked about classrooms and events. There's a grant, all of these sorts of angles that maybe people can pick up on and pick what's interesting to them. And I think that the administration has done a really great job of getting student input. We attended the Exchange in Action dinner, and it felt like there was a lot of space for getting a lot of different views, sort of what everyone was thinking, and I think that will lead to a lot of success for the Wisconsin Exchange. And at the same time, a challenge that I see and that we've experienced in Madison is engaging students who don't care about politics, who don't feel like their views can be shared, or maybe they haven't even thought about their views yet. And so I think that's one of the challenges the Wisconsin Exchange faces, is getting those students that might not opt into these opportunities. And so that's why when Allison talks about the classroom approach and integrating these ideas into the classroom, that's a point I agree with, that this needs to ebb into like everywhere, so that every student, even students that might not choose to attend an event in their free time, are exposed to this variety of thinking in their classrooms as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Miranda. I think just being on the back end side of things with deliberation dinners, I've been able to see kind of the logistics, and it's not all, it's not perfect. I think there's students out there who are scared to come forward with their views. They think there isn't space for them, or they think they'll get to those spaces and that they won't be as welcoming as they thought. So I think it's really important to kind of, as Miranda was saying, like push for exposure of this of this initiative, and kind of making people aware that yes, we really are committed to that civil dialogue, and like this is a real thing, and there are real opportunities on campus to be able to partake in these activities. And so I think it's really important that students and faculty, and really even our community members, get exposed to the value that this program and initiative can bring, and all the programs that kind of fall under this umbrella. Deliberation Dinners is an amazing program. We've grown every year. We are reaching, I think, 375 students this academic year, but that is relative to the size of our whole undergraduate student body, not that many students. So I think just kind of expanding the initiatives that we have and making new ones, and getting this idea out to everyone, and they can opt out or opt in, but just knowing that it exists and that there are spaces for everyone on our campus is so important. And just that exposure, I think, is definitely the number one thing in my mind. So, yeah.
I will start with the challenge and why it gives me hope. I think we all know that we live in a polarized world, and the idea that we should come together and dialogue across difference and being willing to engage with intellectual humility is countercultural. It is not something that's often modeled to us in the media ecosphere or even in the political landscape. And so that is the challenge. And it's one that I think our students are well equipped to address. And that's what gives me hope, because I am deeply grateful to Chancellor Mnuchin and Interim Provost Zumbrunnen for championing this initiative. And I think it is going to be a legacy that continues for years, if not decades. And I believe that UW-Madison is really poised to be a leader in this space, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but to provide a model for the rest of the country. And so yes, it's hard work and it can be scary, but it's also deeply, deeply important. And I think that we have the opportunity to change the landscape that we're currently living in, and that is what makes me optimistic.
Thanks so much, and Jackson, the all hands on deck. Thanks to you for being some of the first hands on deck. Really, really appreciate it. And we would be delighted to continue the conversation again as time allows.
Thank you so much, Interim Provost Zumbrunnen. And Regents, questions? Regent Walsh, then Regent Nixon.
Well, first of all, thank you all for your efforts. This is so impressive. I wish it could have been broadcast live in certain quarters, and you folks, as your professor said, really give us hope. My specific question is to you, Jackson. Would you mind sharing your secret of how you finished a degree in computer science and math in 3 years? I mean, are we talking AP credits? What is going on
And also
here?
participated in things like deliberation.
And you're doing that too, so tell us.
Yeah, Thank you for the question. So I definitely keep myself busy. Besides Liberation Dinners, I'm also a house fellow on campus. And my freshman year, I worked at College Library. So I've had a lot of different jobs on campus. It definitely was AP credits that helped me do 3 years. I think that was the majority of it. So I am originally from Arkansas, so I took some AP credits there during my high school experience, but then I moved to Wisconsin, specifically La Crosse, in November of 2020, so right during COVID. And so I luckily had a lot of AP classes and opportunities to take in my high school, and so that definitely helped me. And then, yeah, I think that was the main thing. I got like 24 credits out of that, which was like a year's worth, so it kind of made sense to me to do that 3 years. It's nice to save money. So I think that was definitely a big part of it, and also I'm just happy to be entering the workforce. So yeah, but it's really exciting.
At some point, is graduate school in your future?
Potentially, yeah. I'm thinking about it. Right now, I'm looking forward to starting at Epic in July as a software developer.
Oh, wow. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Nixon.
So first, a comment, and then I'm going to get to a third rail question, because those are what I do. Thank you. Necessary. Be aware that this, I'm going to speak for the board for a moment. This board is committed to diversity. It's not just we say we are committed to diversity of thought. True commitment, I know, speaking to my own colleagues. Now I'm going to make you feel better or worse. I think urban-rural may be the biggest one, but for those of you who don't know history, the Byzantine Empire didn't have the blues and the reds, they had the blues and the greens. So this has been going on for 800 years, just a little history. Now I'm gonna, and I've heard you touch on the Palestinian issue, which has religious overtones. I've heard you talk conservative, liberal, and I've heard you talk Democrat, Republican. But as a regent, I get to go around on campuses and I listen to students, sometimes in more formal forums, sometimes in less forum. I'm going to give you the gulf that I see the most and asked how you guys have done with this gulf. The gulf that I hear the most about that I think is a real struggle is the difference between the LGBTQ community and evangelicals and conservative Christians, who both have very strong viewpoints. And I listen to them on campuses, and I try and think about how do we deal with a campus with divergent viewpoints of that nature. Have you had both groups or some from both groups participate in your dinners and things? That would make me feel really good. If the answer is no, it's no.
Yeah, I can definitely field this question. So we don't necessarily ask people, like we collect some amount of statistics. Yeah. So I can definitely tell you that we have had participants of both groups in specifically deliberation dinners. I don't have a number for you, but people do come to the program. So I am happy to say that, yes, that does happen specifically in deliberation dinners.
So Madison, we decide our topics sort of as events unfold, but also throughout the semester we pick, like, these are pressing issues that we'd like to talk about. And one of the ones we talked about this past semester was focused on gender affirming care and how trans students should be talked about or treated in sports, and how sex education should be taught in schools.
You do like third rail issues, don't you?
It was a pretty broad conversation, and obviously, like Jackson said, we don't ask people, are you a member of the LGBTQ community, are you an evangelical? But we did have some viewpoint diversity within our conversations. There were students that felt maybe things have gone too far in either direction. So maybe they're not themselves evangelicals or members of the LGBTQ community, but there was definitely difference of opinion, and I think really healthy conversations about sort of what does this mean, and how should you talk and treat people, and who gets to decide, and what about private schools, and what about communities that are more conservative or versus communities that are more liberal. So we've had those conversations to some extent.
That's helpful, because I'm looking for models for other places where same issues arise but may not have been addressed as formally as you have.
Can I just have a question. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say at the Thompson Center, I think we've had speakers on both sides of that when we do our Bridging the Divide events. We've also discussed those topics. But the other thing I would add, because I think the students have addressed a lot of that, is I've also found it useful to often put out ways in which these different divides cross-cut each other. That is, we often assume, oh, you're gay, you must be a liberal Democrat, or you're an evangelical Christian, you must be a conservative Republican. And so by bringing in things that cross-cut that, to show examples of that, I think we often undercut that. So we try to do that as well, bringing in discussions that may have a divide on one of those, but be on the same side on the other. Every model that, no, just because you're on this side of one divide doesn't mean you have to be on the same part of the others.
I would just add to that too, within the council, we've been able to have those kind of conversations as well, not specifically in types of those demographics, but within the different topics, like we've said, and being able to practice the skill of not agreeing, like we said before, but really just being able to come to the table and understand the perspective without having to completely be in agreement with what they want to do.
Regent Goydon.
Thank you, Regent President Bogost. I've got a comment to the students and then a question to the faculty. First of all, you all, Shane and Miranda Jackson, you give me a ton of hope. So I'm very appreciative. And the thoughtfulness of your comments around, we know there are people that are coming to these tables and they self-select to opt in, but there are a lot of people who don't come to the table. And how do we think about bringing those people in? I think that's critical. So thank you, keep doing what you're doing, and give us your ground rules on conversations and invite us to your events. Question to both Allison and Alex. You both mentioned something that I think is a bit of a challenge, and I'm curious how you think about addressing this. This was the polarization of the media ecosystem, and then the search for truth. And then I think about how people self-select in terms of the information that they pursue, in terms of lack of diversity in information. So how does the work that you do not only foster the dialogue, but also seek to help people diversify their information sources and maybe give them ideas on how to extend their viewpoint beyond the conversations at the dinner tables?
Thank you for that question. And it's a continual process of finding good answers to that question. What I do in my classes often, and I'll just give you an example of a class I taught in the fall of 2024, which was specifically around helping students engage with the rhetoric and the discourse surrounding the US presidential election. And it was a large lecture class of 120 students who did self-select it, and they were interested in this class. But what I did throughout the semester is I gave them a wide array of different readings and perspectives from different journalistic outlets. So it was required reading, for example, that they were following the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and how they were covering the election, for example. But also inviting students throughout the semester to engage in anonymous participation surveys that I could display up on the screen. So for example, after the first and only presidential debate, I said, let's talk about it, and what were your reactions, and who do you think did the best job of presenting their issues? And students are able, through their tablets or their phones or their computers, provide their information so that they can see what students around them are thinking about a particular issue without them being concerned about being identified with that information. And what that really quickly does is it helps them to recognize there is a wide array of opinions and perspectives in this classroom, and it also helps me as the instructor know what can I drill down on, or what can I feature, and how can I make sure that I am identifying the different perspectives that do exist in my classroom, even as we talk about strategies of media literacy or the role that TikTok plays in presidential campaigns, for example. So I think it is a continual balance I'm seeking of both my role as the instructor and the disciplinary knowledge and expertise I bring, while also recognizing that my students are bringing their own perspectives, and sometimes the best conversations that we have are the ones that they bring to the classroom because they recognize they're in a diverse environment and they want to learn from one another.
I would say just a very small part of this, but in thinking about designing our events, this is a reason I like to, when we can, have a two or more speakers with different views, because people do select into what events they go to. If you bring out a speaker with a view, often it is the people who agree with that view who want to go to it. You bring out a couple of views at the same event, people go because they like one view, but then they're hearing the other views, not necessarily persuaded by them, but they're hearing it from somebody who really holds it instead of being, only getting these views as expressed by somebody who doesn't hold it. So I think that's a very small part of your question, but certainly something we try to do and I think helps, at least at the margins.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first is for the students. I'm just curious, I just want to hone in on what skills or habits have you gotten as takeaways from this that you're using in your everyday life when you encounter people that disagree with you? For example, like your parents or guardians or anybody in your life that you found that looking back on this is really helpful.
Yeah, I can start on this question. I think just one aspect of the deliberation dinners that as a freshman I was exposed to is kind of like humanization, I think is the best way I could put that, in the sense that because I had had so little exposure to like views that might not be my own, I kind of didn't really know or just like what these people were thinking or really like where they're coming from. And so I think in that aspect, when I'm talking to people now that I like disagree with in some way, shape, or form, I think it's so important to kind of, like take a breather, because I think sometimes these topics can be, heated. And so kind of making sure I'm of a right state of mind and kind of stepping back and considering that this person is, a person like me, and they have their own context and background of how they were brought up, and that has informed their choices, and kind of being able to not like, quote unquote, write someone off immediately for what they say to me, and recognizing that there's more depth there that I can, maybe talk to them about and get at. And I think also just recognizing that I can disagree with someone without thinking they're like morally wrong or evil or something like that, and kind of taking a more positive light to it. So kind of just recognizing the humanity in everyone, I think, was just something so visceral that deliberation dinners exposed me to so quickly and was like maintained throughout the whole academic year. And I'm just so glad that I did that my first semester, just to have those skills in my toolbox. So yeah, I'm really thankful about that aspect.
I think that the biggest thing I've taken away and learned is curiosity. I consider myself a very curious person, but I think coming into college, I had some pretty narrow views, and it was really hard for me to listen to other perspectives. Immediately, when I heard other people sharing, if I didn't agree with them, I felt like my walls went up, and I was immediately thinking about all the reasons I didn't agree, or like facts I could pull. And I think now I've developed a sense of curiosity of other people's views, and instead of jumping to, oh, well, here are 5 reasons why I think you're wrong, I'm thinking like, okay, what are some questions that I could ask to learn more about what this person thinks? Maybe what is the nuance behind their opinion, or what informs their opinion, or what ways do we agree, and what values do we maybe both hold that we can use to think about together. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken away, that I take with me now when I read stories or listen to people who maybe have a different view.
Thank you. One of the biggest things that I've taken away from these conversations is definitely a habit of breathing. Really being able to have that critical self-reflection and understand where my emotions are within relation to the topic at hand, and really to be able to reel those in while understanding and asking questions for clarity and understanding, as Brenda had said.
Thank you. And just curious from faculty, anybody can answer this. And the advent of AI and so many things that, social media is in our face, sometimes for some of us hours a day, is there a layer of trying to seek the truth? I mean, there's so many false things happening. Is that part of the exchange to try and find out what's real, what's not real? I mean, is that integrated into the program?
I might jump in there. I'm thinking about a session that the chancellor and I had with a group of with an advisory board of hers, and sorry, I'm going to get political theory on for a minute, but just for a minute. I mentioned John Stuart Mill, and one of the things John Stuart Mill says that out of the clash of rival truths comes the truth, or can come the truth. And one of the folks in the room interrupted me and said, that makes me a little nervous, right? Like if we think that this engagement that we're trying to pursue is headed towards a truth or the truth, there's some risk there in undermining the effort itself, right? I think, and I'll go back to the sort of critical self-reflection, curiosity, humanization of those who disagree with us. I think it's challenging, Regent Bogos, because I think what we're trying to do here. I'm searching for the words, whether it's the suspending that question of the ultimate truth at first to try to engage with one another in a shared search that never ends. I'll switch back into my faculty role and become the political science professor. But it's an interesting and complex question, and certainly in our world today, when we know for a fact, and this is not in any way a political statement, we know for a fact that technology can and is used for a variety of different misinformation and manipulative purposes by a whole range of actors out there, right? We know that we need, I guess this is where I would end up, is that I will fall back on your first question to the students about what skills and attitudes and dispositions might we together cultivate that allow us to engage with that question of the truth without actually setting for ourselves what may be the unrealistic goal that we're going to arrive at some shared knowledge of a truth that we all agree on, right? So maybe it's that, and I think, again, what Allison said earlier about reminding us of that core sifting and winnowing metaphor. That on some level, how do we do that for ourselves? How do we do that in the presence of others who start in a different place and also sift and winnow differently than we do?
Adding to that, with the sifting and winnowing phrase that has been used throughout the day, with the understanding of the indigenous knowledge that I have, that we are, as we even grow into our very elite elders, we don't seek to understand 100% of the truth or say that we know 100% of everything, even that we can find ourselves finding answers from the youth and the babies and intergenerational education. So I think that working through the AI to find that is also going to be able to create communication and foster community throughout different generations as well.
I just wanted, can I talk about the beta, the AI tool?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention, this is sort of about leveraging AI, but there was a beta test of an AI tool that I participated in that was, I think, created with the help of the Institute for Citizens and Scholars, that basically you speak to it and it has a couple videos that are sort of like introductory about how to talk to people across difference, what skills are important, and then you actually talk to an AI bot, and it gives you feedback based on the skills they talked about. Oh, this is something you did really well, here's something that you struggled with, you said this part, maybe that seems a little defensive. So I was able to practice with that tool, and it's still in its beta stage. But I think that's a really cool way to use AI and kind of use that sort of new technology to have a conversation partner and to get feedback from someone who you're not going to hurt if maybe you say something that's maybe you would have said it differently another time. So I know that's maybe sort of not directly to your question, but I think it's a really cool way that we can use AI and that the Wisconsin Exchange is leveraging.
Thank you very much. Any other Regents questions? Okay, well, this has been extremely enlightening. Thank you so much. Thank you to the students, Intern Provost Zenbrunnen, and to faculty Allison and Alex, and Shane and Miranda and Jackson. Thank you, students, for being brave to come forward and talk to us. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
hear from Chris McIntosh, UW-Madison Director of Athletics, on the 2024-25 NC2A Division I Athletics Report. As a reminder, under the Regents Accountability Reporting Framework, each Division I athletics program in the universities of Wisconsin is required to provide information to the board annually describing the extent to which the program adheres to any performance standards implemented by a university or its athletic board, safeguards the welfare of all students, maintains NC2A compliance, and assures fiscal integrity. The Accountability Reporting Framework provides the board with consistent information about each NC2A Division I athletics program, enhancing the board's ability to effectively monitor the activities of Division I athletics programs. So, without further ado, I will turn the floor over to A.D. McIntosh.
Thank you, Regent President Bogos. Before I begin, I'd just like to introduce some of my colleagues with me today. Senior Associate Athletic Director Adam Barnes, our CFO. Associate Athletic Director Dan Rohr, who oversees compliance. I'm sitting next to Deputy Athletic Director Marcus Sedbury, and Associate Athletic Director Jackie Davenport, who oversees our Badger Built program, which includes all of our academic support, leadership development, and many of our sports services. Thank you for this opportunity. I consider it an honor and a privilege to provide this report on the state of Wisconsin athletics. Today, college athletics is undergoing a monumental transformation unlike any other in the period of its history. When I presented to the Board of Regents last year, I signaled what was imminent for our industry, a fundamental upheaval in how it operates. As anticipated, the landmark House settlement came to pass last summer. This case ushered in the introduction of revenue sharing with student athletes and opened the door to a new operational and governance structure for college sports. The industry continues to evolve as we work towards a model that is both fair and sustainable. Through this volatility, I'm proud to share that Wisconsin athletics has not deviated from our core values. While I cannot predict how long this period of transition will last, I can say with confidence that Wisconsin will not back down from our commitment to broad-based opportunity, competitive excellence, and academic achievement. I also want to acknowledge the tremendous engagement and support we have received from Chancellor Mnuchin. She has been deeply involved in ensuring we have the resources and guidance needed to navigate this moment of change, and her insights and creativity have been invaluable. I would like to thank the Board of Regents for your continued partnership and your leadership as we navigate this period of transition. Today, I plan to highlight key information included in the report you have received. I will begin with competitive success. Badger programs continue to excel across the board, and I'm proud to share several highlights from the 24-25 season. Our women's hockey team completed one of the greatest seasons in program history, finishing 38-12 and capturing the WCHA regular season title and the NC2A championship. Men's basketball recorded 27 wins, earning its 24th NC2A tournament appearance in the past 26 years and advancing to the second round. In cross country, Bob Liking became the first Badger ever to win 4 straight Big Ten individual titles, leading Wisconsin to its 7th straight Big Ten championship and 4th place finish in the NC2A championships. Track and field crowned 2 national champions. Jason Swarns won the 2025 NC2A outdoor shot put title, and Taylor Kestner captured the 2025 indoor weight throw championship. Volleyball advanced to the NC2A regional finals for the 7th consecutive year. In women's golf, Kate Brody finished second at the 2025 Big Ten championship, matching the best finish in school history. Women's soccer reached Sweet 16 of the 2024 NC2A tournament. Phoebe Bacon claimed 3 Big Ten individual swimming titles and was named swimmer of the championships. And in women's tennis, the team reached the second round of the NC2A tournament, while Maria Shalikova became the first Badger to win the ITA Women's All-American Singles Championship. Moving on to the financial section of the report, as in previous years, we conducted our annual financial audit with Baker Tilly. Wisconsin athletics continues to act responsibly and strategically, even as the industry remains on a volatile and unsustainable long-term path. In anticipation of revenue sharing under the House settlement, we have strengthened and diversified our revenue streams, including expanded sponsorships, new ticket pricing strategies, and the hosting of concerts at Camp Randall for the first time in nearly 30 years. Our annual budget continues to support 23 varsity sports and more than 700 student athletes who participate in those opportunities. Athletics employs nearly 400 full-time staff and hosts more than 1.8 million spectators each year. Our economic impact is estimated at approximately $757 million annually to the state of Wisconsin. It supports nearly 5,600 jobs across the state. On compliance, the athletics department reported no level 1 violations, 1 level 2 violation, and 3 level 3 violations to the NCAA in 24-25. The annual compliance review by the UW System Administration Office of Internal Audit for the 24-25 academic year was paused due to no identified findings in recent years. Additionally, the NCAA adopted legislation effective June of 2025, eliminating the requirement for institutions to complete a compliance review every 4 years. With respect to academics, I continue to be proud of the achievement of our student athletes in the classroom. I also want to recognize the outstanding work of our academic support staff who guide our student athletes as they progress towards graduation. Badger student athletes are pursuing 118 different majors, reflecting the breadth of academic opportunity at Wisconsin. Our academic progress rate remains strong with every sport posting scores above 930 in both multi-year and single-year measures. Our graduation success rate was 94% in 24-25, 4 percentage points higher than the national average for all NCAA Division I student athletes. At the end of the spring 2025 term, student athletes carried a 3.325 cumulative GPA. 36 student athletes held a perfect 4.0 cumulative GPA, and between the fall 24 and spring 25 semesters, 356 student athletes earned academic All Big Ten honors. We also continue our commitment to preparing student athletes for both today and the future through our Badger Built program, a comprehensive approach to personal and professional development. This completes my report. Again, I'd like to thank the Board of Regents for your continued support and for this opportunity to share these updates, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, A.D. McIntosh. Any questions or comments? Yes, Regent Walsh.
Thank you for that report, Chris. I confess that I lost track of what happened to the issues surrounding the building that's replaced the shell. I understand at the time that there was some concern about whether you could hold an indoor track, Division I indoor track meet there. What was the ultimate solution of that?
Yes, thank you for that question, Regent Walsh. That facility, the Kellner Family Athletics Facility, is under construction today. It will be built in 2 phases. The first phase will contain what you could think of as the indoor practice surface. The second phase will be support services. We're nearing the completion of that first phase. We expect it to open later this summer. That phase, that practice facility will allow all of our sports the ample resources needed to be competitive, specific to track and field, which was one of the areas that there were concerns. We were able to design the building to accommodate all of the events that we host in track and field. Originally, it took work to do that. Originally, there were questions around some of the horizontal and vertical jumping events, but the building will be able to accommodate those. It will include a 305-meter 5-lane track, which will give our track and field program the ability to prepare for competitions, and we feel will allow them to be competitively successful into the future.
And does that mean we can host an indoor meet or no?
It does not. It's a practice facility, and it hasn't been built, nor is it It is not built to host indoor meets. I think as you talk to our coaches about the evolution of how track competitions have been structured, we didn't feel that, given the constraints we had on the building site and the realities of how teams travel to compete with each other, teams now are going to find other teams, not facilities. So actually this weekend, we're hosting a meet in Chicago. That's the place where all the teams are going to be. So it's not to say that we're not hosting our own meet, we just won't be hosting them within this facility.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that some sort of accommodation is available given our history of excellence in track and field.
Thank you. Regent Nixon.
Well, it wouldn't be a presentation if I didn't ask a question. Director McIntosh, you and I have talked. The last time we had a board meeting where you presented, you and I have joked that Regent Bogos even made a joke that I'd said somebody did a good job when I said that to you. And you have my personal support. But I want to be clear on something that people seem to get confused on, if you could help me with it. You heard Regent Walsh's question. I think a lot of people think because you sit here and we don't act like a grand jury to you, we do ask you questions on the side and make inquiries, and a few of you have heard me in other settings. So it's not as if the board is passive just listening to you sit here. We get involved. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I can speak from my perspective, and I can share that I don't feel that the Board of Regents is passive.
Thank you.
In fact, very active.
You know, because we do get a lot of emails, thank you. That's what I was really looking for. Just because we sit here for these 10 minutes and don't, make you look like a defendant in a grand jury, doesn't mean we don't ask penetrating questions, and that's what I wanted to get to. And thank you. One thing in the future, and this is a personal ask, I don't know how anybody else feels about it. With the changes in college athletics, where programs have to become quasi-ATM machines, in the future, could you also bring your auditors when you come to present here? Because I'm seeing this change where the amount of money rolling through these programs in the future as we go forward. I'd like you to bring your auditors along while we learn to understand this in part with you. That's a personal request, not a requirement, but I'm fine with what I read, but I'm more concerned about, as you and I discussed, as this process goes forward.
Yes, thank you, Regent Nixon. Noted. I think given the pace of change in college athletics, we would be happy to engage in a conversation around how we might, beyond the request that you've made, better inform the board going forward.
Thank you. It's a lot of money. You and I both know that, and we all know that. And, when I was talking to Chancellor Mnuchin, I said, there's a part of me that doesn't want to drill down into college athletics, but we're the Board of Regents, and I'd love to let this all be your problem. But there's something from a fiduciary standpoint that kind of makes it our problem too. And so I would like to, if you would share that with us so we can understand it at minimum. You are still the athletic director. I am not going to interview, and I don't see any of my members, but we do want to perform our fiduciary duty, which means asking questions and getting answers. And it's not a reflection or a suspicion that you have a bag of money under the table. That's what you wish you did. But that would be appreciated going forward. Okay.
Regent Weatherly and then Regent Menendez.
In the spirit of being non-passive, I do have a question about your report. You mentioned the federal graduation rate and our success that we've had there. I was struck by it as I paged that the definition is the percentage of first-time, full-time freshmen who graduate within 6 years of entering their original institution. Given the velocity of the transfer portal, do you think that's a fair measure of how we are providing opportunity and success avenues to our student athletes, just recognizing the transfer portal? And then number two, it just struck me that football is at 83%. Given the fact that you just see on Twitter the number of students coming and going, how do you achieve 83% when we're only counting, students don't count if they leave?
Allow me to respond generally to your question, and then I'd ask Jackie to expand. From my perspective, given the changes that have been taking place within college athletics specific to the transfer portal and the high volume and what has become transient nature of student athletes, there isn't a perfect academic metric. And I think it has caused us to think about more generally, beyond how we measure, more generally, what is our role, what is our responsibility in ensuring academic success, in moving student athletes toward a degree, which we believe, and I think we all believe, is a life-changing opportunity for young people. What is our role in that, in a world in which a student athlete may attend multiple institutions? So if they attend school at the University of Wisconsin, come through our program for one or two of their 4 or 5 year academic journey, what is our role? And I think we feel like we have a tremendous responsibility to play in that. We play a very active role in that. And we've had to rethink, admittedly, what does success look like for us? Are we unsuccessful if we play a role in helping that student athlete achieve a degree from another institution? And I think that is one example or a microcosm of the many issues that we're facing in which we've had to rethink our approach in a changing world without abandoning our values. Jackie, I would ask you to elaborate.
Yeah, great question. I think that's a question that all of us in that academic space continue to look into, is this federal graduation rate, looking at students staying at the institution. You specifically brought up football. Looking at this cohort, it was from the 18-19, and they have 6 years to matriculate through that process. So from 2018 to 2019 in the football space, we actually had 16 student athletes who were freshmen that came in, and 14 of those student athletes graduated from UW. As you think about what that looks like and we come here in 6 years from now, that number will look different as we look to what does that, as you continue to see the cycle go through here as well. What Mac is talking about and what we really lean into in the academic space, though, is what is our role and what can we do to help them while they're here? And the new measure, that's something that we've brought forward, is really looking at what does their peak performance look like. So each student comes in and measures a GPA may look different and what they can achieve may look different, but we are really measuring what is their peak performance. And something that we've been proud is that this last semester, 181 of our student athletes hit their peak performance at a GPA level. So while they're here, what is our role in helping them be successful?
Thank you, and I would just follow up by asking, as you think through that, Chris, I share the difficulty and the wonderment in saying, how do we achieve academic success in this new world? As you think about that more, I'd like to, have that be a discussion both ways. Sure thing.
Thank you, Regent Menedez.
Years that I've been hearing these presentations. How's that? Better? Better. Okay. In all the years that I've been listening to these presentations, reading the reports, I have to tell you that I am so impressed with and thankful for your professionalism and your team's professionalism, and that as Regents, we can be very proud that you're directing, you and your team, our athletes, and making sure that we're doing what's in their best interests. I think that in this era of rules and court holdings and all of the regulations that you have to deal with, it's all done ethically and transparently from my perspective. And that's something that we also all appreciate and admire in this world of changing athleticism for college students. Finally, you haven't lost sight of the fact that they're here in addition to being Division I athletes, and perhaps many of them thinking they can become professional, having them perform academically. And you're doing that according to the information that we have. And that's one of the most important things, as you know and you stress, that we want to do when they come to our campuses. And finally, there's a new element. Not only do you have to have great athletes, great students, but you also have to help them deal with their newfound wealth in some cases, how to handle that, how not to waste it, how to invest it. And that takes a lot of time, effort, and expertise. And you're providing that to them also. So I, for one, appreciate all that you do for athletics and do it in a professional, ethical manner. So thank you all.
Thank you, Regent Menendez. I appreciate those kind words.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from Regents before we dismiss our panel? Okay, thank you very much, Edie McIntosh and the rest of your team. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll now call upon Regent Goydam to read the board's resolution of appreciation for UW-Madison for hosting the February meeting. Regent Goydam.
I need to get a few steps in. So this is our resolution of appreciation to UW-Madison. Whereas the members of the Board of Regents are pleased to recognize the University of Wisconsin-Madison as the host campus for the board's February 2026 meeting and are grateful for the very generous hospitality extended by Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin and the entire Badger community, although it is a bit bittersweet, to use her words. Whereas the board very much appreciated hearing Chancellor Mnuchin's host campus presentation, Principled Pragmatism, Reflections on Leading in a Time of Challenge, updating the board on the outstanding work at UW-Madison in the face of challenges, as well as sharing how the board can continue to support UW-Madison. And whereas the Business and Finance Committee learned more about fostering operational excellence through administrative initiatives to reduce risk, improve employee experience, and drive more resources to UW-Madison's mission. And whereas the Capital Planning and Budget Committee gained a deeper understanding of UW-Madison's facilities strategy to transform the built environment using data-driven decision-making, adaptive reuse and modernization, and targeted demolition and redevelopment. And whereas the Education Committee heard a panel discussion exploring the many ways we teach and learn, describing the different environments where teaching and mentorship occur to meet the ever-changing needs of students, the state, and its citizens. And whereas the board was pleased to present a Regent Business Partnership Award to UW-Madison and GE Healthcare, recognizing their extraordinary collaborative partnership. And whereas the board was inspired just this morning by the presentation Wisconsin Exchange, Pluralism in Practice, discussing how UW-Madison is advancing civil dialogue by cultivating a campus community where diverse viewpoints are expected, respected, and debated. And whereas the board welcomed the University of Wisconsin's wide-ranging perspectives on artificial intelligence, including UW-Madison's presentation titled Rise AI Initiative, Faculty Focus. And whereas the board was delighted to hear from UW-Madison student Adeline Wood, a human development and family studies major. And whereas the board appreciated touring the recently opened state-of-the-art building, Morgridge Hall, home of the future College of Computing and Artificial Intelligence. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents hereby thanks UW-Madison for this month's informative presentations, its forward-thinking spirit, and its many continued contributions to the Universities of Wisconsin and the entire state. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Chancellor Mnuchin again, and to everyone that really worked so hard to have a great meeting. We all appreciate it. And before we move into closed session, I just want to point out that this is Regent Ed Menendez and Regent Walsh's last in-person meeting. But there's months left in your service, so you're not leaving yet. So, and Regent Menendez, who served, like 53 years or something? So I'm sure you're looking forward to, yes, feels like that.
As long as I've been alive.
Yes, as long as he's been alive, that's right. So, and I would also be remiss if I didn't embarrass our student regent Fritz, because yesterday was his birthday, and he didn't say anything because he didn't want me to embarrass him, so I wanted to be sure to embarrass him. So happy birthday, Noah. Okay, Regent Walsh can sing, so here we go. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
It was sung as a vow.
So,
My mom will be so proud to watch this video and see how serious we all are.
And none of the rest of us are going to ask how old you are.
well, it is impressive that I think he may have gone out with some friends in Madison last night, and here he is, right on time, showed up. So, before we move into closed session, any other final comments? Okay. We will move into closed session, but we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute recess. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. But Regents come back in 5 to 10 minutes. I'm sorry, you wanted everyone to hear your moving us into closed session. I took away Vice President Weatherly's moment in the sun. Sorry. Closed session.
Of course. I move the Board of Regents move into closed session to A, consider personal histories related to the naming of UW-Madison as permitted by state statute 19.85. B, consider personal histories related to UW-Milwaukee honorary degree nominations as permitted by state statute 19.85. Parent 1, Parent F. I will go backwards because I forgot the parents. The previous one was 19.85, Parent 1, Parent F. C, consider compensation adjustments for chancellors as permitted by state statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C. D, deliberate and negotiate contracts that require a closed session for competitive or bargaining reasons as permitted by state statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E. E, consider strategies for crime detection and prevention as permitted by state statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent D. And F, confer with legal counsel regarding potential or pending litigation, including, and there's 19 of them today, New York versus Trump, District of Rhode Island, Massachusetts versus NIH, District of Massachusetts, AAU versus NIH, District of Massachusetts, California versus Department of Education, District of Massachusetts, New York versus McMahon, District of Massachusetts, Colorado versus HHS, District of Rhode Island versus Trump, District of Rhode Island, Massachusetts versus HHS, District of Massachusetts, AAU versus Department of Energy, District of Massachusetts, Maryland versus Corporation for National and Community Service operating as AmeriCorps, District of Maryland. I always mess this one up. ACLS, ATOL versus McDonald, Southern District of New York versus Kennedy, District of Rhode Island, AAU versus National Science Foundation, District of Massachusetts, AAU versus Department of Defense, District of Massachusetts, New Jersey versus OMB, District of Massachusetts, Washington versus Department of Education, Western District of Washington, COE versus Department of Education, District of Columbia, Chamber of Commerce of the United States of America, and AAU versus United States Department of Homeland Security, District of Columbia, and California versus Nome, District of Massachusetts, as permitted by state statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G.
That was stellar. Is there a second?
Second.
Megan, call the roll, please.
Regent Bogost?
Yes.
Regent Weatherly? Yes. Regent Adams?
Yes.
Regent Adongo? Regent Fritz?
Yes.
Regent Goydam?
Yes.
Regent Cruiser? Regent Menedetz?
Yes.
Regent Nixon?
Yes.
Regent Falsowitz?
Yes.
Regent Prince?
Yes.
Regent Rye?
Yes.
Regent Rogers?
Yes.
Regent Salzwedel?
Yes.
Regent Terwilliger? Yes. Regent Trainer? Regent Underly? Regent Walsh?
Yep, yes.
Thank you.
One moment.